Things have gone from bad to really, really bad to really, really, really freaking bad for Bungie, for Marathon, for Sony, because yeah, this is coming after the Concord situation. But if you don't know, Marathon came out with an alpha. Nobody liked the look of it. Nobody liked the way that it played. I shouldn't say nobody, but not a lot of people did. I don't think it was horrible. It just wasn't great. And then Arc Raiders came out, another extraction shooter, and everyone loved it. And the playtest was at the same time as Marathon, and it basically demolished Marathon. So that's really, really bad. And then they just got accused for stealing all of that art that no one liked, for like all of it. They got accused of so much of it, and from everything I'm seeing, yeah, they stole it, and this is a huge deal. And we got a video from Upper Echelon going over this, as well as I have an article that dives into some information about it. And this is really bad for Bungie. It's really bad for Sony, and let's dive in and see what people are saying about it.
All right. Normally, I try to be very careful with definitive statements. I would avoid saying things like X company is committing fraud or Y company has committed plagiarism, stuff like that, because the danger when using that kind of concrete language is
slander,
that you end up being wrong and things then get a little bit messy. Instead, I typically go for suggestively open word choices. It appears to be, it seems to be, or there are strong indications of. See what I'm saying? Especially when dealing with large companies, brands that do commit fraud, or characters who engage disreputable lawyers to silence all of
they have a lot of money and they can sue the crap out of you, even if you are right.
Their critics, which I've directly contended with before, unfortunately. Using that kind of language becomes a lot more important. But today's video is an exception to that rule, because I'm not just going to be using suggestive terms for this one.
Ooh.
Far from it, in fact, because Bungie is using stolen assets in their new AAA project Marathon, with the only real question being, who's responsible for that? And what are they going to do about it? Let me start with a little bit of background here, because this is far from the first time that Bungie has dealt with the topic of plagiarism. In 2023, the company was accused of lifting an artist's independent...
Okay, so just a little bit of background information. I want to... Call of Duty actually does something pretty cool with this, and it's not well known. Like, it's not well known at all. I actually found someone to make thumbnails for me back in Modern Warfare 2019. I'm not going to say his name, but he was amazing. He was freaking incredible. Within an hour, he could create any image of any character within the game that I wanted. He ended up getting hired, I believe, by Activision. I don't think he could tell me, but I believe it was by Activision to do art for bundles and stuff like that for them, because he was that good. That has happened to me twice now, that I've found someone, they do that good of work, and then they get hired by Activision. And I'm happy for them whenever that happens. And if they happen to be watching this video, you know who you are. And they don't talk about that, but that is what should be done here. Now, if you're just literally stealing one for one, then we have a problem. And if there's no credit specifically, or there is no acknowledgement or payment going through, I've messed up before. I have taken an image specifically for a Battlefield video that I made, and I thought it was a gameplay image from Battlefield, and I used it in a thumbnail, and someone reached out to me and said, I want you to remove it. That's my image. And I did immediately. I've had other times where I've used people's images for thumbnails on Ink Slasher, and they're copyrighted, and I say I can either change it or I can pay you for your work because you made it. And I feel like that is what is going to happen here. But anyway, the total side piece.
Didn't work directly into a cutscene. In 2024, They were accused of stealing a weapon design. And late last year, an entire lawsuit collided with the studio, alleging that they stole entire sections of lore and storyline narratives, particularly the Red War and Curse of Osiris plotlines, from an individual blog writer. Setting aside my personal opinions about those previous examples, it's pretty clear that the company is no stranger to the topic of asset theft. However, none of it even comes close to what we're talking about today, because this time it's not similar or inspired by, defensively. This time it's practically the entire art style of their new AAA product called Marathon, which has been directly lifted, copied, and pasted into their game. Meet Anti-Real. Anti-Real is a visual artist, primarily a graphic designer, it seems, who has a substantial body of work going back many years, some of which is oddly reminiscent of what we now see in Marathon. By itself, no big deal. Visual styles are very often similar to each other across all sorts of different work. But I want everyone to remember who this person is, okay? Anti-Real. I'll come back to them. Next, we need to introduce two more characters, and while I certainly can't say for sure if these are the two people primarily responsible for this problem, I think it's fair to know who they are, considering the full scope of what's going on. Thomas Kerpa and Paul Martinson. Starting with Thomas Kerpa, this is the chief creative officer and co-founder of a design studio and branding development company called Kerpa Hosk. Paul Martinson is the creative director of Kerpa Hosk, and if you start digging into the designers that work for this company, including Paul Martinson, you start to find references and fragments linking them back to Bungie. As you begin poking around here and there, a picture starts forming. Kerpa.
Yeah. I love mysteries. He drew me in. I'm sucked in. Upper Echelon is killing this video right now.
Hosk has worked with a number of high-profile clients, but it's also a subsidiary of a consultancy collective called Hydra. If you start looking at the creative styles of their designers, such as their co-founder, or generally investigating their work across the board, there are distinct visual similarities of what appears to be in Bungie's new game Marathon.
Yeah.
But eventually we find out that Bungie's own franchise art director for Marathon openly stated a little over a week ago that they've been working with Kerpa Hosk since the very beginning. So far, so good.
Okay.
Bungie hires a branding company. That company produces the artwork for Marathon, which has visual similarity to a number of different artists, including their own co-founder. But where's the actual problem? Because so far there isn't one. This is the problem. Anti-Real, the previously mentioned artist with a very similar art style as well compared to Marathon, on May 15th of 2025, posted on social media, quote, "The Marathon Alpha released recently and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017.
What?
By itself, that might be nothing, but Anti-Real included a variety of comparisons, which make it extremely clear.
Oh my God. It says the exact same words.
That not only are the designs similar, they're flat out copied and pasted into Marathon. Here's an example. The Aleph Darkspace haulage logistics graphic, which appears pixel for pixel all over the game assets.
Oh my God.
Or how about this, where you can see portions of Anti-Real's work flipped horizontally and pasted in, where they didn't even bother to
the same number.
Fully remove text that reads Anti-Real Daily Series right on it.
How does this happen?
And if that's not enough, how about the fact that Anti-Real's own logo is visible in numerous different locations throughout the game? Because
okay, Anti-Real, get a bag. Like, get a lawyer right now and get a couple million. Like, I'm not even kidding. That is what you need to do right now. Because this is blatant plagiarism, and someone is going to get fired. I think multiple people are going to get fired at Bungie. I think the game's going to get delayed. I called that pretty much right away. And I think like this is a big deal. Like, this is like literally copying and pasting. Get yourself a good lawyer and get a bag.
The artwork of Marathon was cut, copied, and literally pasted into their product.
Literally my
graphics
logo.
On the Marathon website, graphics from their video trailers, graphics from pretty much the entire project, which can be found directly in the game files, are one-to-one copied and pasted from Anti-Real's work. And it gets even better.
How does that happen?
This part needs a little bit of deep internet history, if you will, for it to make sense, but get this. In 2024, Anti-Real on Twitter posted, quote, "I hid loss in my designs 6 years ago and nobody caught on."
What do you mean by loss?
Which might sound like gibberish to an average person.
It does.
Let me explain. Loss is actually a 4chan meme about abortion, but the comic it's based on is very often depicted as minimalist lines, like this. Basically, this line pattern right here refers to a comic from 2008, but lo and behold, on the Marathon subreddit, 22 days ago, before the topic of plagiarism started blowing up on social media, a thread with 1,400 upvotes appears, showcasing the loss line pattern, clearly displayed in the game world of Marathon. People were actually praising this game for that kind of deep internet meme reference, saying things like, quote, "Holy shit, this game is 10 out of 10.
Stolen."
But come to find out, the only reason that meme reference is even there is because someone cut, copied, and pasted an actual artist's work across the entire Marathon project, which just so happened to include this meme, which they secretly stored in their work 7 years ago, and no one noticed. Still not done. There's many more examples of directly copied graphics. At this point, it's pervasive across a lot of the game, but I want to shift gears and go back to Joseph Cross, the franchise art director for Marathon.
Okay.
Yeah. Joseph Cross
I'm pretty sure he was on the live stream Revo.
Personally follows Anti-Real's account. The franchise art director for a AAA game.
He already followed him? Weird.
Personally follows the account of an independent artist who had massive portions of their work straight up stolen and used throughout his game.
That's so obvious.
Optically, that's like one of the worst possible things that you could ever have happen.
Yeah.
It's actually not even just the art director. A lot of Bungie people, employees, artists, etc. follow Anti-Real, but focusing on the more concrete aspects of the problem, this is a major roadblock for Marathon as a product. We're not just talking about 1 or 2 or 5 graphics here and there, which are similar or slightly tweaked and changed, but kind of the same. Remember, in the past, Bungie used similar graphical material often, but it wasn't the exact same, and subsequently they never really faced any...
There is enough proof here to show that it is the exact same. That's why I said get a lawyer, get a bag. Like you need without a shadow of a doubt like proof, and like the what was showing there, like the logo literally being in it, you can see them trying to remove things, but it's still being there. Like
serious problems. That's just not true this time around. Someone somewhere, whether it be at Kerpa Hosk or Bungie, we don't really know at this point, copied and pasted so much of the game's artistic material without a single design change whatsoever. It is now an actual problem for Bungie. This isn't the type of thing you ignore and walk away from. It's the type of thing that damages a brand. And Marathon wasn't exactly doing well to begin with here. Sure, it's most likely the design company that they hired, in my opinion.
Probably.
But even then, it has reputational ramifications for Bungie as well, which at this point is probably unavoidable. Adding this in after the fact because it was posted while working on the video script and the editing, etc. The Marathon dev team Twitter account has posted a response to all of this publicly, which says the following, quote, "We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in-game. This issue was unknown by our existing art team, and we are still reviewing how this oversight occurred. We take matters like this very seriously. We have reached out to Anti-Real to discuss this issue and are committed to doing right by the artist. As a
paying him a bag, get a lawyer. Anti-Real, if the odds of you seeing this, first of all, if you do, cool. Second of all, if you see this, go to a lawyer immediately. They will get you way more. This is the situation where a lawyer is actually a good thing for you. Get a good one and they will do good by you. Like this is the situation.
Matter of policy, we do not use the work of artists without their permission.
I mean, you do, clearly.
To prevent similar issues in the future, we are conducting a thorough review of our in-game assets, specifically those done by the former Bungie artist, and implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions. We value the creativity and dedication of all artists who contribute to our games, and we are committed to doing right by them. Thank you for bringing this to our attention," end quote. So that makes it sound like an innocent mistake that someone got maybe fired for, I guess, but the explanation...
It sounds like they didn't get fired for that. It sounds like they left long before and they just used the work of the person that was maybe fired, maybe not, and...
That this only occurred because someone included the graphics in a texture pack doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. Remember, these graphics appear all over the game, even showing up on the website homepage for Marathon, which is an animated graphic. If this was simply a texture pack that was added to by one rogue employee, there wouldn't be this many different examples. Again, so much of their artwork was stolen, even random meme references are showing up in the game, which were hidden by the artist 7 years ago. This isn't some simple oversight, where a couple of graphics appeared in a couple of places that they shouldn't have. This is pervasive at this point, and the further back you go in Anti-Real's content library, the more obvious it gets. I'd be willing to bet, and this is purely just personal suspicion at this point, so keep that in mind, but I'd be willing to bet practically anything at this point that people are about to find far more examples of this. There's already, 7 different designs where stuff was copied and pasted?
I would assume so. And again, mistakes happen, right? Like, okay, I'm inspired by this, copy and paste it, and then, I forgot that I copied and pasted it, which is ridiculous. Or like, is it public assets, whatever. But how do you fix it? You pay this person a bag and then you leave it in the game and then you put it in the credits. Problem solved.
Into the game across multiple
assets. And yeah, you're going to have to pay them more because you didn't ask for permission.
Which to me all but guarantees that the real number doesn't stop at 7. It's not like we just initially found all of the examples that are out there. It probably goes far higher than that, far higher than 7. But we also have to use a historical lens here and remember that like once or twice per year, a different artist, mind you, comes out on social media and says, hey guys, wait a minute, Bungie stole my artwork, which is not a fluke anymore. Okay. It's become a pattern.
Yeah. After it's happened,
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Bungie knew as a company that the assets were stolen. They probably didn't, to be fair. I'm not going to pretend that I can tell you who's responsible for all of it. Maybe it really was an individual ex-employee artist like they claimed. But for this one, I don't feel like tiptoeing around with the language, and I don't think it's even remotely necessary. Because the stone cold truth is that Bungie did use stolen assets all over Marathon. That is a fact. Hopefully they end up compensating Anti-Real. I think it's likely at this point. The optics are so bad with this one that there's really no way to dodge accountability for it like they would probably hope to do in other circumstances.
You know what's going to be awesome too? I bet you Anti-Real is going to make more than every single art designer on that game by a long shot, which like he should.
I guess we'll see. I don't know. I hope they get what they deserve. Like Anti-Real gets what they deserve in a good way is what I'm saying. I don't really care if Bungie gets what they deserve as long as they compensate the person who actually made the artwork and I don't know, just like move on from it in a constructive way, right? The get what they deserve is supposed to be positive in this case for a talented artist. That's my point. But anyway, if you want to support the channel, check out the links down below, a special VPN deal, locals and Patreon, also Anti-Real's social media pages because they do excellent work and more.
Again, I think when it comes down to things like this is people make mistakes, right? Companies make mistakes, and I think that's okay, but it's how you deal with them and where you go with that moving forward. And this is a mistake that has been made multiple times by Bungie, as we just saw. This is a mistake that has happened over and over again, and yet it hasn't been addressed and it keeps happening. So if I'm a lawyer, they have precedents for doing this before. This has happened before. There's clear theft of property. There is I mean, there might be some sort of trying to make it right behind the scenes, but if I'm a lawyer, I am licking my chops. I am not looking back, and I am gunning for Bungie. So hopefully Anti-Real gets a bag. Hopefully like you'd think million. You'd think a million. You'd think a million. Like maybe I'm sounding ridiculous, but you'd think at least for something like that. And I bet you they could get more, a lot more. Right? Now the problem is arguing it in court for money. I don't exactly know how this will work. Maybe Legal Eagle will do a video on this, but the game hasn't made any money yet. But you could look back and see how much Bungie games have made and then make an argument for that. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but needless to say, Bungie stole it. They're down bad. They're down even worse than they were before. And again, it was bad, then it was really, really bad, and now it's just like atrocious for them, and it's only going to get worse.